Hello everyone, myself Dr. Kalpana Thakur from Institute of Educational Technology and Vocational Education, Punjab University, Chandigarh. Today our topic is programmed learning. In this lesson, we will learn the concept of programmed learning. We will learn various styles of programming, viz. Linear, branching, mathematics, and how to develop program on the basis of above three styles. Now let us take a look at the concept of programmed learning. According to Leith, program is a sequence of small steps of instructional material called frames or pages, most of which require a response to be made by completing a blank space in a sentence. To ensure that expected responses are given, a system of queuing is applied and each response is verified by the provision of immediate knowledge of result. It means feedback has to be given immediate. Such a sequence is intended to be worked at the learner's own pace as individualized self-instruction. According to Mavi, program instruction is a technique of converting the live instrumental process into self-learning or auto-instructional readable material in the form of micro-sequences, that is segments of subject matter, small chunks of subject matter, which the learners are required to read, make some right or wrong choices on the question, which is followed by a readable material, correct the wrong response and confirm the right response, and attain complete mastery of the concepts explained in the micro sequences. The five fundamental principles of program learning are: number one, principle of small steps. Programmers should try to arrange the subject matter into a properly sequenced and meaningful segment of information called frames or pages. These segments should be presented one at a time before the learner for responding. The frames are of three types: information frames that present new information, prompt, exercise, or practice frames contain exercises based on the information presented so that the students remain active throughout the frames, and test frames to evaluate whether the desired behavior has been achieved or not. Second principle is principle of active responding. The learner learns better by being active. The learner remains active if he responds actively to every frame presented to him. The learner remains meaningfully busy and active, thus acquiring the knowledge step by step. Responses may be multiple choice, that is supposed to select one from the multiple alternatives, or constructive type, to complete a sentence or to solve a problem or to answer a question. The third principle is principle of immediate reinforcement. One learns better if he is motivated to learn by receiving information of the result just immediately after responding. In a program, appropriate consideration should be made for the provision of immediate reinforcement by informing him about the correctness of the response. Principle of self-pacing. Learning takes better if individual is allowed to learn at his own pace or speed. Programming should be done in view of the principle of individual differences, and learners should be able to respond and move from one frame to another. And the last one is principle of student testing. For better learning, it is always good to see continuous evaluation by student testing. The learner has to leave the record of his responses that help in revising the frame so that there is error-free learning. Now coming to the styles of programming, there are three basic formats of programming, viz. Linear, branching, and mathematics. And to arrange the subject matter in the given frames, we use deductive or inductive approach. Computer-assisted instruction and learner-controlled instruction, they are the ways and means of providing instructions or to disseminate the program material. First of all, linear or extrinsic style of programming. The credit for propagating the linear programming style goes to B.F. Skinner in 1955. It is directly related with his theory of operant conditioning and is based on the assumption that human behavior can be shaped or conditioned gradually, step by step, with suitable reinforcement for each desired response. In this programming, the instructional material is sequenced into a number of meaningful small steps called frames. These frames are presented to the learner one at a time, and the learner is required to respond actively at each step. Immediately after responding, the learner is given information about the correctness of the response. It reinforces the behavior and he may be motivated to learn the next frame in the arranged sequence. By proceeding from one step to another, the learner may be able to acquire the desired learning experience. The sequence of frames and path of learning in this programming is systematic and linear. That is why this type is referred to as linear. All learners, they have to proceed through the same frames and in the same order. The path of learning is same for all the learners. The whole instructional procedure is well controlled, and this control is quite extensive because it is exercised by the programmer and it is in hands of programmer. So linear programming is also referred to as extrinsic kind of programming because every learner is following the same path and nobody can skip any frame. So first of all, they have to move from first to second to third and so on. The linear programming lay emphasis on making the sequences of response errorless. For this purpose, the steps are made so small and sequenced in such a way the learner makes only correct responses throughout the instruction process and receives in consequences only positive reinforcement. If the learner does not respond correctly to a particular frame, he may be required either to repeat the frame or be acquainted with the correct response. In any way, he is not allowed to move further unless he responds correctly to the present frame. Now, let us have an example of linear program on the topic solar system. On frame 1, the information is divided into small segments. A very small amount of information is given. The Earth on which we live is an important member of the family of our solar system. The Sun is at the nucleus of solar system. It has 8 planets revolving around it on the account of gravitational force. Now this is a very small fragment of information. It is followed by a response of constructive type. Our Earth is one of the 8 planets and revolve around dash on the account of dash force. Now, when you are preparing the linear program, you can ask this question either in the Google form or any other app because in the digital medium we can apply controls. If he doesn't answer, then he should not be allowed to move further. But now if you have not put it on some digital medium, you're not using the digital medium, then you have to supply him the response sheet where he is supposed to record the responses for every frame. But in the digital medium, we can apply various kind of controls. If he doesn't respond, then he should not be allowed to move further. And we have also to provide him immediate reinforcement is possible only in the digital medium. Whereas in the mechanical medium, the student has to wait for a day or two. So because you need time to correct those response sheets. Now in the second frame, again a very small amount of information is given. The 8 planets in the order of the distance as given in the figure below from the Sun are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Pluto ceased to be called as planet as it is kept in the category of dwarf planet. You can also add pictures to give more, enhance the learning. And again it is followed by a response of constructive type. Dash planet is nearest to Sun and is farthest from the Sun. Again, in the third frame, very small amount of information. In addition to 8 planets, the satellites of these planets, comets, meteors, and asteroids are also the members of solar system and revolve around the Sun. Together they are called heavenly bodies. All heavenly bodies revolve around dash. Again, in the next frame, all celestial bodies like planets revolve around the Sun in elliptical orbits and their satellites revolve around them in elliptical orbits. The elliptical orbit is kind of elongated circle. All heavenly bodies like planets and their dash, comets, meteors, asteroids move around Sun in dash orbits. Now here you can see the prompt is already there. So in a linear program we have to write the frames in such a way that no error should occur. There must be some kind of enough cues and prompts should be already there in the information. So always try to uh, divide the subject matter in such a way that it should be properly sequenced, as well as very small amount of information should be provided in each and every frame, followed by the either it could be a multiple choice question, or it could be the response of constructive type. In the same way, you can add on frames and on till the whole topic is covered. Now, advantages of linear programming. Series of small steps make the subject matter easy for the learner, and chances of errors are very less because matter is properly sequenced in small steps. Immediate knowledge of result releases tension and anxiety among learners. So it's better to put this program on some kind of digital medium, or put it on the computer, so that we can have immediate kind of reinforcement on every response. Repetition ensures learning, which further strengthens the responses. In each frame there are questions and the learner is supposed to answer at each frame. Thus the learner remains active throughout. In the program learning, prompts, hints and cues are made to occur so that the learner does not waste time whenever learner finds difficulty in giving the correct response. The learner goes through the program material at his own speed. Now there are the limitations of linear program, because every learner gives the same response. So there is no development of creativity and imagination, and there is no flexibility in following the path of learning, because path of learning is same for all the learners. And learning become highly mechanical because there is only single response to each and every question, or it could be a multiple choice, whether they are the constructive type of responses. It can be used in limited topics, so it's better to use linear program when the topic is highly difficult. Now we have another style of programming, that is branching. It is also called intrinsic style of programming. The credit for developing the branching style goes to American psychologist Norman A. Crowder in 1954. In contrast to linear programming, this style provides an intrinsic arrangement in the sense that it is not controlled extrinsically by the programmer. The learner is able to adapt the instruction to his needs. The basic assumption underlies this style are as follows. The learner learns a thing better if it is presented in its totality or in the form of meaningful components or units. Learning takes place better if it is done in the form of traditional tutorial methods. Wrong responses do not necessarily hinder the learning of a correct response. In a learning process, errors may occur. If an error occurs, it may be detected and corrected before proceeding further on the learning path. Learning will be better if each response is used to test the success of the latest communication to the student, and the testing is followed by a remedial instruction. MCQs help more in the learning process than the forced choice single response items. Now, procedure outlined for the branching style of programming. The instructional material is divided into units of material called frame. Much information, one or two paragraphs or even a page, is provided in a frame. So thus frame is quite larger as compared to linear programming. The learner goes through the frame. After that, he is required to respond to multiple choice questions associated with the learning material of the frame. He has to discriminate and choose one right answer. The learner moves forward if he answers correctly, but is diverted or branched to one or remedial frames if it does not. That's why it is a branching style. These frames explain the matter afresh, ask him questions to elicit the right answer and reveal his previous mistakes, and then return to the original frame. This cycle goes on till the learner passes through the whole instructional material at his own pace. So, in the first frame, information is given and is supposed to answer the multiple choice question, and accordingly he is moved to various branch to various kind of frames. Now again the topic is solar system. Now on page 1 the information is given like this. The earth has been evolved out of sun. Like the earth, many of its constituents got separated from it but remained attached to it on the account of its gravitational force. They still may be seen to revolve around their parent body, that is sun. These are known as planets. There are 8 such planets. Pluto, once known as the ninth planet, has now been categorized as one of the dwarf planets along with Ceres and Eris, including our Earth. There are some other heavenly bodies named as satellites that revolve around their respective planets. The Moon is one of the such satellites. It revolves around the Earth. Apart from satellites, asteroids, comets and meteors too revolve around the Sun. Now if we ask the question, what is solar system? Now there are 4 options: the Sun and the illuminated space around it, the Sun and our Earth, the Sun and its 8 planets, dwarf planets, the Sun, its 8 planets and the satellites, dwarf planets, asteroids, comets and meteors. So accordingly, if he chooses A, then he has to go to page 4. If the student chooses B option, then he has to go to page 12. If the student chooses C, then he has to go to page 5. If the student chooses D, then he has to go to page 3. Now the correct option is T. Now let us see. On page 4, if he goes to page 4, it means that your answer is not correct. For the correct answer, you are required to study the given subject matter on page 1 carefully and select the correct alternative. So if he chooses the wrong answer, then on that page this kind of information can be given, and you can even have the detail of other why he is wrong. You can explain that also in this on this frame, but you have to direct again back to the first frame, that is the page 1, so that he is able to select the correct alternative and move forward. Now again on page 12, if he has chosen the wrong information, then you have to say that you are wrong. Again, then you can explain why he is wrong, and then you have to divert back to the page 1 and ask him to read the information carefully and select the correct alternative. Then on this page, if he is selecting this alternative, then your answer is not fully correct. For knowing well about the relationship of Sun and its 8 planets, you would be reading in further pages. You should go to page 1 and read it carefully and choose the answer carefully. Now if he has chosen the correct response, then you have to reinforce, give him positive reinforcement. That is very good. Your answer is correct. Now you are provided further information on the solar system. Now next information would be provided on this page. In the same way, it will be followed by multiple choice question, again 4 options. Then it is diverted to various pages where he is supposed to select his every learner now select his own path of learning. That's why this style of branching is called intrinsic kind of style of branching. Now advantages. Big size of frame reduces unnecessary repetition and responding. Thus the amount of learning, time and fatigue are also reduced. Mistakes committed by students are explained in the remedial frames, and the students not only gets the correct response, he also understands why other response is not correct. The frames being of larger size contain good deal of information. The programmer may further enrich his style and expand his ideas. It may help in practicing creativity. It may give training in problem solving. It being based on old tutorial methods, so helps each and every learner as per his needs and requirement. Learner has full freedom to choose his path of working. Now limitations. These are applicable from year to year basis and from student to student. There is need for reprogramming, which is cumbersome as well as costly. And most of the branching programs, they are the project of programmers' imagination. They may not be really very good in the context of real situation. Being large sized frame, it is not possible to ask questions on the whole matter contained in the frame, and it may not be suitable for all kind of students. Now, let us take a look on the differences between linear and branching styles of programming. Uh, First of all, we have the concept or element under comparison. First is the propagator. The linear style was propagated by B.F. Skinner and branching was propagated by Norman A. Crowder. And the background concept, the concept of linear programming is based on the operant conditioning and branching style is based on eclectic theory of learning. In linear, size of steps is very small. It should not be more than 25 to 30 words, maybe 2 or 3 lines. Whereas in branching, you can have 1 or 2 paragraphs or even 1 page. And number of steps in linear, that's why they would become very large. Whereas in branching, if it is because now the information is being presented in one page or maybe 2 or 3 paras, so number of steps would be small, number of frames would be small. Then sequencing should be based on logical subject matter analysis. That means that you have to follow the logical order. You may not be using that maximum of teaching that is easy to difficult, that is a psychological order. You may have to sacrifice, so but you have to arrange the frames in a sequential manner, in a logical manner. And as far as presentation is concerned, the linear style usually look like a textbook, like in a normal sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas a branching style, it is like a scrambled book. It may not be 1, 2, 3. So pages do not form the normal sequence, and the machine on which the linear can be run or it is normally very simple teaching machines, whereas branching style can only be run on the complex machine like computers. In linear, response mode is through constructive type of responses and occasionally through multiple choice questions, whereas in branching we always use multiple choice questions. And purpose of response is fixing of response, that is mastery learning. That's why we use practice frames and testing frames in case of linear programming. Whereas in branching style of programming, purpose of response is to measure how much learning has taken place. And reinforcement is on every correct responses, and remedial instruction may or may not be suggested in linear style. And reinforcement is also on correctness of response in branching style, but remedial instruction is followed after incorrect responses. Error rate is less than 5% in linear, and whereas in branching 20% errors they are allowed. As far as utility and appropriateness is concerned, linear is appropriate for lower classes and for achieving objectives at knowledge and understanding level of Bloom taxonomy, and it may be useful for average students and maybe non-performers. And if the concept, if we are more useful in the topics, very difficult topics, and if we are dealing with the concept formation, then linear style of programming should be used, and it is best used in teaching facts, definitions and basic skills. Whereas branching is more useful for higher classes, and if we want to achieve our instructional objectives at higher order of Bloom's taxonomy, and branching is more suitable for talented and creative students or high achievers. And if we want to compare the concepts, not concept formation, concept comparison, then branching style is more useful, and it is best used in area beyond facts, definitions or basic skills. The third style of programming is mathematics. It was developed by Thomas F. Gilbert in 1962. The word mathematics was derived from Greek word mathin, which means to learn. Mathematics is defined as the systematic applications of reinforcement theory to the analysis and construction of those complex repetiers usually used for attaining mastery on the subject matter and developing skill and knowledge. In mathematics style, an exercise is the technical unit of learning instead of frame of a linear style of program. There is no restriction on the size of the exercise. The size of exercise is kept according to the needs and requirement of the students. As a technique of teaching, it could be applied to any subject, but it is more suitable if we want to teach skills. It is a complete training system that gives the programmer a guide for determining what to teach, a basis for making teaching strategy decisions, and detailed procedure for constructing a program. In methodic style of programming, retrogressive chaining makes it unique among all the programming techniques. The child learns the last step first, then he goes to the next one before it, and thus to the introductory part. This procedure where the tasks are connected from the last to the first is called chaining. The reinforcement here is the completion of task. It follows following principles. Number 1 is principle of chaining. The chaining of the stimulus and response is helpful in developing the mastery of content and determining its structure. The element of the content is formed by arranging stimulus and response. The chain is formed by arranging the stimuli and responses. For example, for S1 stimulus, R1 is the response. For S2 stimulus, R2 is the response. For S3 stimulus, R3 is the response, and all are arranged in a sequence. Second principle is principle of discrimination. The discrimination situation of learning is generated by providing different stimuli which have different response. Every stimulus and response is independent to each other. For S1 stimulus, R1 is the response. For S2 stimulus, R2 is the response. For S3 stimulus, R3 is the response. So students have to discriminate among various stimulus and their responses. And the third one is principle of generalization. The generalization is a critical situation of learning. It helps in achieving higher cognitive objectives of learning. In this type, a group of stimuli emits single response. So it is opposite to discrimination. It means that S1, S2, S3, they all have a same response, that is R. So these are the three principles of principle of chaining, principle of discrimination, and principle of generalization. Now let us take up an example. That is on the page 1. If we want to find the square of any two-digit number ending in 5, it has two steps. Step A is multiply the first digit number by the next higher consecutive digit. Then in the B step, second step, that write 25 to the right of the result. In this page, no response is required. In the next page, first exercise is given to find the square of 25. Now, the previous steps, they have been explained with the help of an example. First step, multiply the first digit, that is 2, by the next consecutive digit 3. The product of 2 and 3 is 6. Now, the second step is write 25 to the right of result 6. Third step is the square of 25 is 625. Again, no response is required on this page. Now on this page, another exercise is given to find the square of 35. First two steps, they are already being done, and the third step, the student is supposed to write the answer, that is to finish the task. Now in step 1, multiply the first digit 3 and consecutive digit 4. The product will be 12, and write 25 next to 12. The square of 35 is 1225. So he is supposed to write the answer 1225 to finish the task. If he is able to write correctly, then definitely he will get reinforced. Now in the next page, another exercise is given to find the square of 45. Now only first step is done, already done. That is, multiply the first digit 4 and consecutive digit 5 equal to 20, and the next two steps, they has to be done by the student. So following the principle of retrogressive chaining. Now he is supposed to write 25 next to answer 20. In the second step, answer should be 20, and the square of 45 is 2025. So he is supposed to complete these two blanks. So we are following the principle of retrogressive chaining. Now Again, in the next exercise, to find the square of 55, now we're supposed to fill the last three blanks. First step is completely done, already completely done. That is, multiply the first digit 5 and the consecutive digit 6 equal to 30. Then he's supposed to write 25. In the first blank, answer should be 25 next to 30. The square of 55 is 30, 25. So here on this page is required to fill the last three blanks. In the same way, in the next exercise, to find the square of 65, he is supposed to fill the last four blanks. In the first step, multiply the first digit 6 and consecutive digit 7 equal to, now is supposed to write the product also, that is 42. Then write 25 next to 42. The square of 65 is 42, 25. So he is supposed to fill the last four blanks. Then again in the next exercise, he is supposed to complete the last five blanks. Then the last exercise is supposed to fill all the blanks. So in this way, principle of retrogressive chaining is being followed in mathematics style of programming. Now the advantages of this style is it is very comprehensible because maximum of illustrations and examples can be put into it. It provides complete training system. So here the programmer gets guidance about what to teach and also what strategies to be applied. It is very useful in teaching of certain skills. It helps the learner in transfer of training of skills from one situation to another. So basically it is a task and job oriented program. Now coming to limitations of mathematics style of programming. This style is very technical and needs lot of skill training and hard work on the part of programmer. It cannot be used for different types of material contained in different subjects, may not be used for higher objectives, and cost of production is very high because we need expert to develop this style of programming and to write frames according to this style of programming, and it cannot be used for factual contents, and it may not be used based on sound learning theory. So today we have learned three basic styles of programming: linear, branching and mathematics, and how to write frames on these three styles of programming. Thank you so much.